Okay, hello everyone. It's great to be here in Dubai at WS Summit. My name is Samson Mow, and I will be talking about Bitcoin, Liquid, and Lightning. So everything to do with the Bitcoin blockchain. Did it change? Okay. So a bit of information about Blockstream. Blockstream was founded first in 2014. We are a Bitcoin infrastructure company. That's how we like to present ourselves. So what that means is we are primarily building on Bitcoin as a base. And I'll give some examples of the internet, but we see Bitcoin as the foundation for a new financial system. And everything we're building is set on top of that strong, immutable, indestructible foundation. We are primarily venture capital based, so we raise money from traditional VCs, including Digital Garage, AXA, Horizons, and a number of others. And recently we just completed part of our B round at 210 million at a $3.2 billion valuation. So what we're seeing is a lot of recognition that building on Bitcoin is a way forward, and a lot of our investors share our vision to make Bitcoin the foundation of this new world. So we have a number of products at Blockstream. We focused a lot on mining. This is something we started in 2017, shortly after I joined. So before Blockstream, I was actually at BTC China, one of the largest exchanges and mining pools in the world. And after joining, I started this new direction for us. So originally when Blockstream was founded, we were focused more on the software side. We're founded by Dr. Adam Back and a lot of Bitcoin core developers. So we're mainly focused on sidechains, and that's part of my topic. But we shifted our focus a bit to get into mining. And now we're one of the largest miners in North America with about 300 megawatts of power. And I see this as a major part of our business moving forward. We also have Blockstream Energy. So this is an energy product where we're selling modular mining units, so our mining containers that can be deployed anywhere in the world to mine Bitcoin. And the cool thing about this is we can sell it to an energy producer, and they don't even need to know that they're mining Bitcoin. It's just a box that sits in their facility, and it just pays them for electricity. So this can be used to do a number of things like grid balancing, but it kind of gives you a hint of where things are going with Bitcoin and how Bitcoin is becoming this kind of battery for balancing and improving energy production around the world. So in general, Bitcoin incentivizes energy production, and this is kind of a new area that we have yet to explore. We also acquired a company called Adamant Capital to launch our financial products division, and this is to build interesting financial products on top of Bitcoin. And I can talk about some of those things in a bit. Some of our other products include the Blockstream Satellite. So we have a satellite service that is broadcasting the Bitcoin blockchain through satellites in geosynchronous orbit around the Earth. So that's like 30,000 kilometers up. And this encompasses the entire planet, so you can actually get the Bitcoin blockchain pretty much everywhere. So right now, if you had a satellite dish and you pointed it up, you could start receiving that blockchain data for free. And this is actually something we use in our mining operations. So because we don't need an internet connection, we only need a small LTE connection or even 3G to broadcast a block found when we're mining. We can deploy our mining containers anywhere in the world. So it could be in the middle of the desert where there's a solar farm, and we just connect our satellite dish up and we get the blockchain. And that's about 5 or 6 gigabytes of data a month. So it's no longer dependent on terrestrial internet. We also do some data products. We have a partnership with ICE, and we also have Blockstream Green, which is a non-custodial Bitcoin wallet. And as part of our Series B announcement, we announced that we acquired Spondoleeze. It's an Israeli ASIC manufacturer. So they design chips and miners, and we're hoping to launch the first enterprise-grade miner in Q3 of next year. So typically right now, a lot of the ASIC manufacturers, they're building kind of in a shoebox form factor. So it's kind of difficult to mount. We're aiming for more of a 1U rack server, and we want it to be very modular so that you can swap out hash boards and whatnot, or any component very quickly and very easily. So that's something we're very excited about. So onto Bitcoin. Why are we building on Bitcoin? We're not focused on any other blockchains, just purely on Bitcoin. And there's a lot of attention in the media that is somewhat negative towards Bitcoin, saying it's dinosaur technology, it has low throughput and whatnot. And in my talk, I'm hoping to dispel some of those myths because I think it's a very dishonest take on Bitcoin. But the main reason why we're building on Bitcoin is because it is the most immutable and decentralized platform in the world. And now we're seeing nation states adopt it. So it's kind of a recognition and acknowledgement that this is the right direction to go in. So Bitcoin is the world's first cryptocurrency. It was created by Satoshi Nakamoto, and there was no pre-mine, there was no way to enrich himself. He just appeared, and now everyone in the world can use Bitcoin, and anybody can participate in the network. The key here is that it is decentralized. A lot of blockchain projects out there are not really decentralized. They act more like companies. But Bitcoin, anybody can build on it. Anybody can create a company and start building technology on this base. And one of the key things here is that the nodes are very light, so anybody can run a Bitcoin node. If you are unable to run a node and participate in the network, participate in the consensus rules of the network, then it can lead towards centralization. And that kind of defeats the purpose of having a blockchain. If it's centralized and it's just running in a data center, there's not that much meaning. So this is kind of why we are very strong proponents of Bitcoin. Bitcoin is secured by proof of work, which is done through mining, and that's part of the reason why we got into mining, to help secure the Bitcoin network. So the architecture of the internet is largely based on layers. So you have the physical layer, and then you go all the way up to the application layer. And this is something that that mirrors our approach to Bitcoin development, because if you scale the Bitcoin at the base layer, making the blocks bigger, which in the past some projects tried to do and failed, it can make it so that it becomes centralized again. So the important thing is that we build on top of that layer. And we do that with things like the Liquid network and Lightning network. So these are what we call layer 2 scaling solutions. And this is very much a mirror of the internet. So instead of making more fiber connections and wiring up everything house to house, we try to build on a base and make it scalable. So I'll first talk a bit about Lightning and then Liquid. So what Lightning is a peer-to-peer micropayments network. So there is no blockchain involved in the Lightning network. It's just a peer-to-peer network that is kind of representing the states of different transactions. So if I open up a channel to you, we can start to send payments back and forth. And then what we do is we end up routing through a network of these different channels to send payments around the world for free, almost for free, and instantaneously. So now we actually can see more throughput with the Lightning network than with traditional centralized systems like the Visa network or whatnot by using these payment channels. So what we do is we still use the main chain to open up a payment channel. And then once we have it open, we can start to transact. And all the transactions in the Lightning network are completely off-chain. So you have far higher throughput, and that's what allows us to achieve that lower cost and speed. But it's primarily routing. So you can think of it as batching up your transactions, where you're making a number of transactions off-chain, and then you settle on-chain at the end of that series. So you can always close out a channel, and there is still a need to settle on the chain at the end of the day. But the cool thing about Lightning is that we can achieve previously unknown levels of throughput that you can't really do with a centralized system. So people like to say Bitcoin only has 7 to 14 transactions a second, but that's at the base layer. But if you look at Lightning, we can achieve tens of millions of transactions a second, because each one of those payment channels that I mentioned, you can have about 500 transactions a second per channel. So that gives you a theoretical throughput of 37.5 million based on the current state and size of the network and the nodes. So that gives you about 13.5 terabyte blocks if you had tried to scale at the base layer. So this is why it makes sense to scale with something like Lightning, because it is far more usable at the long term. You can't really have terabyte-sized blocks and still have a decentralized network. So now I'll talk a bit about Liquid. So Liquid is a Bitcoin sidechain. So it's based on a fork of Bitcoin called Elements, and all of this is open source. So you're free to clone Elements, make your changes to it, and launch your own version of Liquid. But Liquid is a production network, and it is a federated network. So if you remember a few years back, Facebook tried to launch Libra, and they tried to make this federation of their own and set up a foundation in Switzerland, but I don't think they ever really got it off the ground. But Liquid is actually a decentralized federation. So the members are cryptocurrency exchanges, trading venues, security token issuers, and technology companies. So these are all the members of the network, and they govern the network. There's 3 different governing boards. And the network is secured by functionary servers. So these are 1U rack servers distributed around the world in different geopolitical regions. And basically, those are kind of like the miners of the Liquid network. So they are the ones that are producing the blocks. And the cool thing about sidechains is that you can do different things with them. You can experiment and scale up Bitcoin in new ways. So one of the key features of Liquid is that we have, confidential transactions. So this is something that people have wanted to do in Bitcoin, but it's difficult to affect change on the Bitcoin protocol because it is decentralized. And we had the scaling debate or scaling war, Bitcoin civil war a couple years back. And people tried to change the protocol and increase the block size, but they failed. But for Liquid, what we can do is do things like we could technically have bigger blocks because it is not the Bitcoin blockchain. It's a separate blockchain of its own. We have faster block time. So in Liquid, we have 1-minute block time. So there is a block every 1 minute. And because it is federated, it is not mined, we can actually have that tighter time between blocks. The reason why the Bitcoin blockchain has 10-minute block times is to allow for synchronization, because it is decentralized and you need everyone to come to consensus every 10 minutes. But because we have a fixed set of functionaries, they can actually sign every 1 minute. So it's like clockwork. Confidential transactions are a very important thing. I think if you're building a new layer for a new financial system, you want to have confidentiality. So the traditional financial system has a lot of drawbacks, and it takes a long time to settle. But the bigger problem is everyone can see, if you're running one of the settlement networks in the financial system, you can see all the transactions. If you're running a trading platform like, say, Robinhood, you know what your users are doing, and you can sell that data to someone else. So I think when you're building something to act as a new base, you want to have that confidentiality. And the cool thing also about Liquid is we can have different assets. So you can issue different assets in the Liquid network. So if you imagine Bitcoin is having one asset type, which is just Bitcoin, in Liquid you have Liquid Bitcoin, which is pegged Bitcoin, plus different things in the network. So there is a peg here. You can move Bitcoin freely between the Bitcoin network and the Liquid network. You can peg in coins and peg coins out. And we do that with a 2-way peg. So this is a little bit of cryptography. So we lock Bitcoin up on the main chain and unlock it on the side chain. And as I mentioned, there is a blockchain. So the functionaries sign off every minute, and then we extend the blockchain with a block. This is just a slide showing some of the members. I'm running short on time, so I'm going to speed it up a bit. But you can see we have a lot of the top cryptocurrency exchanges in the world: Bitfinex, BitMEX, Huobi, OKCoin. And this is because originally Liquid was launched as an inter-exchange settlement network. So what that means is you can move Bitcoin quickly between the different exchanges. This is really useful as a trader because you want to be able to move your coins fast. If you're trading derivatives on BitMEX and you have some Bitcoin on Bitfinex and you want to bulk up your position a bit to avoid liquidation, then Liquid is very handy because you can move it very rapidly with 1-minute block times. So this is the latter part of my talk, building on layer 2. So the interesting thing with Liquid and Lightning is the Lightning network now exists on Bitcoin itself, but you can technically have a Lightning network set up on top of a Liquid asset, which is really cool, and it really changes the playing field. So I'll get into that a bit later. Running short on time. So we have stablecoins on the Liquid network. We have Tether, USDT, which is the king of stablecoins. It's the largest one with about 70 billion right now issued. And what we can do is create a Lightning network on top of a stablecoin, because Liquid is a fork of Bitcoin. If Bitcoin has Lightning, Liquid can also have Lightning. And what that gives you is a way to use stablecoins for payments. So I think this will be coming in the next few years. It will see more assets on the Liquid network that are being used in retail payments. So in addition to USDT, we also have a Japanese yen stablecoin. This is launched in Japan, and it's regulated. We also have a Canadian dollar stablecoin, a euro stablecoin, actually several euro stablecoins, but any liquid asset can have its own Lightning network. So you can imagine people using stablecoins for payments, and this just makes the legacy financial system kind of obsolete. You don't need to use a centralized system like Visa. You can just pay with a stablecoin, and you don't need to worry about price fluctuations in Bitcoin. We're also seeing a lot of interest on the security tokens front. So I think for security tokens, we've been missing a piece here, and that is the trading venue. So there have been security tokens in the past. So security tokens are just tokenized securities offerings. But in the past, we didn't have a big trading venue. But a couple of weeks ago, Bitfinex announced that they were launching Bitfinex Securities. And I think this is a big game changer, because Bitfinex is a major cryptocurrency exchange. They have an amazing tech stack. And now people will be able to trade tokenized securities on their platform using their technology. And then we have our Blockstream mining node, which is tokenized hash rate of our mining operation. And this is actually quite popular because it allows people exposure to mining without having to actually buy the hardware. So you have liquidity, you can trade this OTC. There's no platform that can stop trade of this because it is just a token on the Liquid network. It's permissionless, except for trading with other accredited investors or qualified investors. There's also a token called EXO for a game publisher that is publishing My Game Infinite Fleet. So these are the first two security tokens on the Liquid network that will be on Bitfinex Securities. And the mining node is very interesting because if you look at it, it's exposure to Bitcoin mining, but if you're just a traditional investor, you're not interested in Bitcoin, you're not interested in mining, you're actually earning very good yields as a traditional financial instrument. If you break down the Bitcoin mined and you just look at the dollar value of it, I think you're earning 0.3% a day. So a lot of the investors in the BMN are just looking at it from just a basic ROI standpoint, and they're very happy with the results because you don't have to do anything fancy. You're just getting a very good return on a very secure instrument. We're also seeing the emergence of things like censorship-resistant decentralized chat. So this is Sphinx chat. It is built on the Lightning network. So Lightning can route payments, but it can also route information. So we're going to see an emergence of a new class of decentralized communication apps. And also, these two things, the Lightning network and the Liquid network, will enable machine-to-machine payments. Eventually, I believe we'll see hyper-Bitcoinization, where we don't have to ever go back to any fiat currency, and everything will be priced in sats, the smallest unit of a Bitcoin. But in the meantime, you can actually do that with a stablecoin. So one machine can pay another machine, and you can have this financialized Internet of Things. So in summary, I think building on Bitcoin makes the most sense. If you're investing a lot of resources, like Blockstream, you want to build on a solid foundation, something that is not going to be changing, upgrading, adding more fancy features. You want something like Bitcoin, which is battle-tested and robust. And you can scale that using things like Lightning and Liquid, and you can have throughputs that centralized systems don't have. So I think we've passed that inflection point where a decentralized system actually has more throughput and is faster than a centralized system. And you can have interesting things like stablecoins, security tokens that change the whole financial system and allow for permissionless, fluid trading. So I think security tokens are going to be very big. If you look at the traditional stock market, you're only trading 5 days a week at best, minus bank holidays. But for security tokens, you can trade nonstop, just like Bitcoin and other crypto assets, there's no stop in trading. It's 24/7, 365. No one has an advantage because they're in New York and they're on Eastern time. Yeah, and that's my talk. Thank you very much.